John the Baptist is in prison, and he has sent some messengers to Jesus because he's at a place where he's got some questions. Has my life's work been the right path? Have I done everything I was supposed to do? Is this man, I believe, is the Messiah? Is he for sure the Messiah? Is he really the king? And part of the reason he may have had those questions is that Jesus just didn't come and act and do things in a way that was exactly what, even those who believed strongly that he was the Messiah, in a way that they expected. Jesus always does that. He catches us off guard. He does things differently than us. He does things more wisely than us. And sometimes his agenda is just not what we expect. We have the idea of what we think God should do, and God and Christ do something entirely different. Always right, always wise, always for the good of his people, but just differently than what we might have imagined. That always works out for the better. We need to learn to trust that when God does close a window, close a door, open another one, all of those cliches, that it's because he has something better planned for us than we realized. Wasn't that the word of Joseph to his brothers? What you meant for harm, God used for good. Joseph could never, knowing the dream that he had and the vision God had given him for his life, even knowing that he was someday going to be more than he could have asked or imagined, God didn't do it in a way that he understood or could have predicted or in any way have altered, for that matter. His whole life was different from what he expected, and it turned out for the better. He says God used that for the good. So John has those questions. I do believe that even in his doubts and in his questions, there was a very deep and abiding faith. He went to the right person. He trusted the answer, and he went forward with what he got from Jesus. And that's where we sometimes fail. We will ask the right person, we will get the right answer, and then we go, what? What are the famous words that we utter all the time? Well, I just don't know. Right? You said them. Well, I just don't know. Yes, you do. Right? If Jesus told it to you, you do too know. How often do we come away from Scripture? Well, I just don't know. Yes, we do. And this morning, this will be the last time I say it, but yes, we do. We know, okay? And we're going to know by the end some more things. So you can't walk away saying, well, I just don't know. We'll know. All right? Let's have Jesus tell us what we need to know. All right? Verse 7. This will be from the New Living Translation. As I've said before, it's in the U version if you want to follow along, and there'll be notes there as well. As John's disciples were leaving, Jesus began talking about him to the crowds. What kind of man did you go out into the wilderness to see? Was he a weak reed, swayed by every breath of wind? Or were you expecting to see a man dressed in expensive clothes? No, people with expensive clothes, they live in palaces. Were you looking for a prophet? Yes, and he is more than a prophet. John is the man to whom the Scriptures refer when they say, look, I am sending my messenger ahead of you, and he will prepare your way before you. I tell you the truth. Of all who have ever lived, none is greater than John the Baptist. Yet, even the least person in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he is. And from time to time, John the Baptist began preaching. Until now, the kingdom of heaven has been forcefully advancing, and violent people are attacking it. Before John came, all the prophets and the law of Moses looked forward to this present time. And if you are willing to accept what I say, he is Elijah, the one the prophets said would come. Anyone with ears to hear should listen and understand. To what can I compare this generation? It is like children playing a game in the public square. They complain to their friends, we played wedding songs and you didn't dance, so we played funeral songs and you didn't mourn. For John didn't spend his time eating and drinking, and you say he's possessed by a demon. The Son of Man, on the other hand, feasts and drinks, and you say he's a glutton and a drunkard, and a friend of tax collectors and other sinners. But wisdom is shown to be right by its results. All right. My apologies. Every now and then, the bread from communion it's still there. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. My mouth is watering, driving me nuts. Okay. So after Jesus addresses John's questions and addresses it, like I said last week, in a powerful way, when you put all the Gospels, the harmony of the Gospels together and get the full picture, he literally turns and heals people and then turns back to the men and says, now you go and tell John what you have just seen and heard, that the deaf can hear, the blind can see, the lame can walk, that the dead are alive again. You go and tell him what you have just seen. He doesn't say the words. He does the deed. And then what does this end with? Wisdom is proved right by her, some translations, by her deeds. You think that coming full circle isn't on purpose with Jesus? It's on purpose. Okay? So he's gone from proving to John the Baptist, yes, you're on the right track. You have been faithful. Hang on. And then turns to the crowd and speaks about John. And he doesn't talk about John, again, in a way that is a rebuke for having a question. He doesn't even talk to the crowd about the fact John had questions or has doubts. Instead, he confirms one more time, John is everything that God showed him to be as well. That he is he is peak prophet. Okay? He is the greatest prophet who was ever known. What he says about John, the greatest ever. When Jesus says that about you, that's incredible. But why does Jesus say it about him? Is it because John was more faithful than Elijah? No. Is it because his truth was more truthier than Elisha? No. Did it have a greater impact because of him? No. Why? We'll get to that. But first, Jesus does have a few questions. There's a little bit of background to this particular passage that we need to get, because Jesus is saying some things and doing some things that don't just automatically catch in our 21st century minds, but that definitely would have caught in the crowd's minds that were there. Okay, he uses his words so very carefully. He says, "What did you go out to see?" And the first thing he asks three questions. What did you go out to see? Was it a weak reed, swayed by every breath of wind? And this is Jesus. If you've ever had anybody tell you that sarcasm is sinful, tell them about this passage. Okay? Because they're not paying attention. Jesus is being sarcastic. Jesus does that quite often. So does God, by the way, through his prophets many, many times. Why is he being sarcastic? He's using it wisely. That's different than sometimes the way we use it. But why? Because there is political and potentially violent pressure on Jesus and on his disciples at the time. Again, where is John when this happens? He's in prison. Where is that cell? At Herod's palace, at his fortress. Why is he there? Because of Herod. Because of Herod. He had spoken out against Herod because Herod had married his brother's wife with whom he had had an affair. He was in an adulterous relationship. Doesn't matter if he had a piece of paper saying it was okay or that he was a king. It's an adulterous relationship. There is also the complication that will get John eventually killed, that he at least desired, whether or not he had one, an incestuous relationship with his adulterous relationship wife with her daughter. That's what he wanted. Well, John speaks out against it. John is a prophet of God. He has no choice but to speak the truth. And that means that sometimes you're going to say things that steps on people's toes, sometimes with steel-toed boots. And he did that. And so Herod put him in prison because he had been speaking out against him. And then, because of all of that, Herod's wife then has his head lopped off. That hasn't happened yet, but it's getting real close. It was dangerous to be someone that Herod perceived as a threat to his power. He's a politician. He sees himself as, quote, the king of the Jews. Now, as you know, there can't be two kings at the same time, can there? If Jesus openly, loudly proclaims, I am the King of Kings and the King of the Jews, what does Herod immediately do? This probably explains why sometimes you see Jesus where he performs a miracle, brings someone back from the dead, or heals a couple of blind men not that long before this, and says, now I don't want you to go and talk about it. Because he's not wanting attention too intense that would reinforce to Herod this man may be a threat to his power. And so he kind of does some of these miracles on the down low because he's not trying to get the wrong attention. It's strategic and it's wise in the moment if he's going to keep being able to do what he needs to do. Okay? So this is part of what's going on. So he uses language that immediately the crowd will know that he is challenging Herod, but he's not out loud challenging Herod. He's being sly. Who did you go out to see? A weak reed swaying with every breath of wind? Why would he say a weak reed? I mean, you get the image, right? It's just somebody who's wishy-washy, somebody who checks the breeze before they make a decision. Not someone who acts out of integrity, not someone who acts out of truth, not someone who acts out of principle, but someone who acts out of what direction do I need to play today? Like a politician? Could that be the image that he's wanting? Now, who's a politician again? Herod. Herod's a politician because not only does he have to keep his Israelite friends happy and make sure that they don't want to revolt, but if they did revolt too much, if they push too much, who's above Herod? The entire Roman Empire. So he has to play politics with Rome. He has to play with Pilate more immediately and with Caesar above all. And so when those winds blow, you have no choice but to sway or be done. Did you come out to see a Herod? That's what he's asking. Did you come out to see a Herod? Another reason he uses the term reed. This is a stamping of the official coin of Herod. On this side of the coin, that is the head of a reed. It was his official emblem of his reign. So Jesus used his words very carefully, didn't he? Who did you come out to see? A little Herod swaying in the wind? Now he's even mocking a little bit. Yeah, Jesus has more humor than you guys might know. And so he's poking the bear a little bit, but he's not coming out and saying anything that will get him legally in trouble. Because that's an innocuous enough phrase. You have a defense, right? It's just a reed swaying in the wind. Surely, Herod, you don't think I'm talking about you. You are certainly a stronger man than that. That sort of thing. No, they knew exactly who he's talking about when he says this. And then he says, oh, did you come out to see somebody who's in soft, some of the translations will say soft, expensive clothes? Who sits in soft, expensive clothes all day? Who really liked them? Herod Antipas, known for his expensive, soft clothing. So he says, you think I'm just somebody who blows in the wind, sitting around in a nice soft robe? No, that's not John the Baptist, is it? Because he's still kind of talking about John here as well. Does John sit around in soft clothes? He wore camel's hair. Now, I've never worn a camel. You ever worn a camel? I never worn a camel. But I'm going to assume that it's not the most comfortable, or probably you could, go to Dillard's and buy a camel sweater, but I've never seen that. I don't know about it. Some of you wearing llamas, that's like a mini camel. Anyway, that's not who John the Baptist is. You didn't go out to see some wealthy, powerful politician who's spoiled? Is that who you came out to see? And they'll go, no, no, that's not who we came out to see, because they were looking for somebody different. They wanted somebody who would stand up against Rome, and Herod is just a pawn to Rome. They were looking for somebody who would maybe even cast Rome out. So they didn't want somebody who was just soft and going to play ball and go along with Caesar. They want somebody tougher than that. John seems like the kind of guy that would be for somebody like what they're looking for. He seems like a pretty tough guy. A little rough around the edges, certainly not afraid to speak truth to power. So they're thinking, John, we probably, whoever he says is the Messiah, has got to be the guy that we're looking for, right? He said, so what did you come out to look for? It wasn't somebody soft. It wasn't somebody without a spine. It wasn't somebody who's just in it for himself. Did you come out for a prophet? Maybe. You got to be of a certain age to understand this slide. But and if you were of that age, you heard the voice, right? You heard the voice. So maybe you did. You came out, and he says, yeah, you did. You came out to see a prophet, didn't you? And then what's he going to do? So how come you didn't listen to that prophet? You came out for a prophet. That prophet was here. You found one. You were successful in your prophet hunt, and you found the very best prophet that ever was. So, why didn't you listen to him again? That's what he's going on and saying. If you wanted to find one, why didn't you listen? Now, could he say the same thing to me, to you? He probably could, You wanted to study the Word. You wanted to know what God said. You wanted to hear the wisdom. Well, what you didn't do it for? I told y'all I wasn't going to say that again. Oh, well, I did. Anyway, he goes on too and says, things are actually better than you expected. You're going to find something that gets better than what you understood. I tell you the truth, of all who ever lived, none is greater than John the Baptist. It's an incredible statement. Then he says, yet even the least person in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he is. Do you feel greater than John the Baptist? Why did he say that? I don't feel greater than John the Baptist. I would think that would be arrogant to say that I'm better than John the Baptist. Oh, okay. John has something to say about that. Anyway, not out of his pride, but he tended to rebuke that kind of pride. So what is Jesus talking about? It's in the same way that John is the greatest prophet. It's about proximity. It's about proximity. Why is John the greatest prophet? Because what did John get to do? Did Isaiah get to baptize the Messiah? Did Isaiah get to say, the kingdom isn't coming, the kingdom is here? Did Elijah get to eat at his table? No, not yet. But who did? John the Baptist. Everything for thousands of years had worked up to this very moment, and it's through John the Baptist that God chose to announce, my son is here. The promise is kept, and the kingdom is open to you all. What a cool job John got. Greatest prophet there ever was, with the greatest task there ever was. And Jesus says, but you know what? You have it better than he did. Why? John got to announce it and go home. You get to live it. He didn't get to live what the people that were standing there that day got to see. For John the Baptist, it was a little bit like Moses standing on a mountain, viewing the promised land, and then going home. That's what John got. He got to announce it and go home. But you get to live it. You got something better than even they did. I hope we understand that, and I hope we actually believe that. Because sometimes we get in our heads that, we just live in the hardest time, which is hilarious for an American to think. But we just live in the hardest time. We live in the worst time. We live in the most immoral time. No, we don't. We don't. We're underestimating how much the devil has done in the past. But we also underestimate how much God is doing in the present. In our moment, we live, because every moment that the kingdom grows, and every moment that the kingdom advances, and every moment that more souls are saved, we lived in the greatest time ever. Do we see that? Do we believe that? For every person you share the gospel with, you've introduced to them the greatest time ever. We get to live in the best of times. In the best of times. Let's read verse 12. And from that time, or from the time that John the Baptist began preaching until now, the kingdom of heaven has been forcefully advancing, and violent people are attacking it. For before John came, all the prophets and the law of Moses looked forward to this present time. And if you are willing to accept what I say, he is Elijah, the one the prophet said would come. Anyone with ears to hear should listen and understand. Okay, now I was talking earlier, he's being sly in the way that he's saying this, sly in a wise way, a strategic way. He doesn't say, the kingdom is here and I'm the king. Because what would that get him? Prison. Now, he came to die. He came to go to the cross, but that has an appointed time. And he's not going to let that happen until it's appointed time. So he gives them the dots and says, I need you to connect them. Connect the dots. If you are willing to accept what I say, that John the Baptist is Elijah, in their minds, God has said that he will send one in the spirit of Elijah. So Jesus says, if you're willing to accept that John the Baptist is the one who comes in the spirit of Elijah, then what does that mean? Well, he was going to send the one that in the spirit of Elijah to announce the arrival of the Messiah. So if you accept the one, you have to accept the next. So he's saying, if you accept that he is the one who came in the spirit of Elijah, then... And he leaves it for them to figure it out. You accept that. Anyone with ears to hear, listen and understand. Well, what were they to listen and understand? The king is in their midst, and it's Jesus. He wants them to connect those dots, but nobody can make a charge that he said that out loud. But he said what he said, right? He said what he said. Let's read this passage, 11, verses 16 to 19. To what can I compare this generation? He shifts gears a little bit. To what can I compare this generation? It is like children playing a game in the public square. They complain to their friends, we played wedding songs and you didn't dance, and so we played funeral songs and you didn't mourn. John didn't spend his time eating and drinking, and so you said he's possessed by a demon. The Son of Man, on the other hand, feasts and drinks, and you say, he's a glutton and a drunkard and a friend of tax collectors and other sinners. But wisdom is shown to be right by its results. He says, you people are fickle. You're just fickle. You. Remember how he started this conversation? Did you go out to see somebody who's like a reed blowing in the wind? And now what has he done? You didn't want somebody with that kind of a weak will. He says, but do you know, we came to you, John and I, and you were like reeds blowing in the wind. You were the reeds blowing in the wind. He came. You said that you wanted someone who would preach fire and brimstone. You wanted someone who would set things right. You wanted someone who would speak truth to power. And when John the Baptist came and spoke those things, you said, well, I think he's getting up into our business. I think he's gone from preaching to meddling. I think that sounds familiar, right? We wanted somebody to set us straight. Not that straight. Not that straight. Okay. Well, then Jesus comes and he says, okay, I'm not going to come and preach fire and brimstone. I'm going to preach grace in the kingdom of God. And what did you say? I think he might be a liberal. Right? All the Church of Christ people know what I'm talking about, and some of the Baptists too, right? So That's the way we are. Well, I think he might be too liberal. He's eating with sinners and tax collectors, and I still like that phrase, disreputable sinners. Just disreputable people. What's he doing? He needs to get a little more fire and brimstone, and then we swing back. Is this not the same pendulum that the church rides all the time? Isn't it the exact same thing? Like a reed swaying in the wind? That's all a pendulum is, isn't it? Just gravity instead of wind? Same thing. He says, we can't quite please you people. And then he says, in other words, but it was never about pleasing people. What proves true wisdom? That it's this when you wanted it and that when you changed your mind? Or that it's more like a reed made of titanium that won't budge, will not budge, speaks the truth, lives the truth, holds the truth, and regardless of what happens, does not sway. Isn't that Jesus? Isn't that what we're really looking for? What did we come out to see? What was it we thought we were looking for? So here's a new set of 3 questions. They're Jesus's questions. They're not mine. What are you looking for? Is it the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, or is it the kingdom of self? The kingdom of self just flows like this. It goes with your appetites, your moods, how much sleep you got last night. I want this, I want that, I don't want this, I don't want that, and whether it affects me or somebody else. It's fine to be fire and brimstone when it's that person over there, but when it comes to my house, you better hush. All of that kind of stuff, that's the kingdom of self. What were you looking for? Are your eyes and ears open to the time you're in? Do you know you live in the best of times? Do you rejoice like you live in the best of times? Do you run and tell the good news to those who don't see it so they'll understand that they're in the best of times? Are your eyes and ears open to the way God works and where He's working? Do we listen and watch, or do we just submit our requests? We can submit our requests, by the way. We're told in Scripture to do so. But are we watching for how He answers? And 3, are you living like a reed in the wind? Or are you working with the rhythm of the Messiah? He says, we tried the wedding songs, the happy celebration songs. We tried the sad songs, and y'all didn't play either way. Do you listen? And do you move to the rhythm of God? Do you yield to the Spirit, or do you resist? If you're going to sway, it's only one way that it's okay: when you walk in step with the Spirit, when you're following Jesus and letting Him lead. I would encourage you today, consider which of those you are. Consider which has your rhythm going. Is it the wind? Is it self? Is it the world around you? Or is it Jesus